Just imagine for a moment you're drifting in the cold emptiness of space, surrounded by silence so deep that even your heartbeat feels like an echo in eternity, and then suddenly you see it, a world gleaming like a frozen pearl, distant yet captivating, hiding secrets beneath its icy shell that may change everything we thought we knew about life itself. This is Europa, one of Jupiter's most mysterious moons, and NASA has just revealed something so chilling, so awe-inspiring, that scientists are questioning not only the possibility of life beyond Earth, but also the very definition of what it means to be alive. Because beneath Europa's cracked and gleaming surface, hidden under miles of frozen crust, lies a massive ocean, an ocean larger than all the oceans on Earth combined, locked away in eternal night, untouched for billions of years, and yet possibly brimming with mysteries waiting to awaken. And when NASA's probes and telescopes first sent back evidence of water vapor plumes shooting into space from the moon's surface, it was as if Europa itself was whispering to us, calling across the cosmic void, saying, "Look closer, because what you will find here could rewrite history." But what makes this discovery even more haunting is not just the presence of liquid water. It is the unknown, the unanswered question of what might be lurking within those frozen depths. Because where there is water, there is a chance for life. And not the kind of life we are used to. No forests, no animals, no humans, but strange alien forms, perhaps microscopic, perhaps vast beyond our imagination, glowing in the dark, evolving in isolation under a crust of ice so thick that sunlight has never once touched them. And as we picture NASA's spacecraft flying past this world, taking snapshots of ridges, cracks, and icy scars that crisscross Europa's surface like veins, we cannot help but feel that the moon itself is alive, pulsing with energy, hiding something within, something it does not yet want us to see. Because every ridge, every frozen valley is a sign of movement beneath, of the ocean pushing and shifting. A restless world beneath a frozen mask, and the thought is almost terrifying. What if, when we finally break through that ice, what we discover does not welcome us? What if we awaken something that was never meant to be disturbed? And yet, the pull of curiosity is stronger than fear, because humanity has always wanted to look beyond the horizon. And so NASA's Europa Clipper mission is preparing to go closer than ever before, to scan, to listen, to measure, and maybe, just maybe, to find proof of life. But imagine the suspense as the instruments detect unusual heat signatures under the ice, as magnetic readings hint at currents moving in the deep ocean, as chemical traces suggest something far more complex than frozen water. It is as if the chemical traces, the moon itself, is holding its breath, waiting for us to arrive. And when we think about how on Earth, deep under our oceans, in places where sunlight never reaches, entire ecosystems thrive around volcanic vents, creatures glowing with bioluminescence, surviving without sunlight, feeding on chemical energy, we begin to realize that Europa could be much the same, only far stranger, far older, and perhaps far more advanced than anything our imagination dares to picture. And suddenly this discovery of a frozen ocean under Europa's surface is no longer just a scientific finding. It is a cosmic mystery, a story unfolding before us, pulling us deeper into questions of what lies beneath, what lives in the shadows of an alien sea, and whether humanity is ready to face what it finds when the ice finally breaks, because somewhere in that endless darkness, something might already be watching, waiting, and listening for us to arrive. And the thought that we may not be alone under Europa's frozen crust sends a chill deeper than the void of space itself, a mystery that is only just beginning to unravel layer by layer. As NASA peers closer into the unknown ocean, the moment scientists whispered the word possibility, a silence spread across the control room, as if every heartbeat, every breath, and every flicker of light had frozen in place. because that single word carried with it the weight of an entire universe of meaning, a suggestion so profound that even the most rational minds could not escape the surge of questions it unleashed. For if there was a frozen ocean beneath Europa's icy shell, and if beneath that ocean there lurked warmth, chemical reactions, and the building blocks of biology, then the possibility of life beyond Earth was no longer a question of fiction or dreams, but of reality pressing against the glass walls of human understanding. And in that silence, the minds of the scientists raced, unfolding scenarios of alien ecosystems thriving in the darkness, strange creatures adapted to pressures and temperatures unimaginable to human senses, life forms not dependent on sunlight like earthly plants, but on chemical energy released from the core of Europa itself, perhaps thriving around hydrothermal vents hidden deep under the frozen crust. And the thought that something could be swimming, moving, even evolving in the pitch-black abyss beneath the miles of ice made the room feel at once too small and infinitely vast, because suddenly everyone understood they were no longer merely studying a moon. They were staring into a mirror reflecting humanity's greatest fear and greatest hope at the same time. And as the images continued streaming in from NASA's instruments, showing fractures, ridges, and glistening reflections of frozen salts hinting at subsurface exchanges between water and surface, the realization grew heavier that Europa was whispering secrets. Secrets written not in human language but in cracks, in shadows, in chemical signatures etched into ice. And each signature felt like a riddle waiting to be solved. A riddle that carried the answer to whether humanity was alone in this cosmos or not. And the scientists could not help but imagine the strange physics of that ocean. How waves might rise without ever touching the sky. How currents might flow endlessly in the dark. How unknown bioluminescent organisms, if they existed, might cast ghostly glows, flickering like lost stars trapped beneath a frozen sky. And in those imaginings, fear mixed with awe. Because if Europa held life, it meant the universe was teeming with possibilities. But if Europa held silence, an empty ocean devoid of even the simplest spark, then perhaps life itself was rarer, lonelier, and more fragile than anyone dared to believe. And it was this razor-thin line between hope and despair, discovery and disappointment, that made the mission feel less like science and more like destiny. A journey into the very definition of existence itself. And as the thought deepened, the team began asking questions that grew darker. Questions that pressed against the edges of sanity, such as what if life under Europa's ice was not microbial, not small, but vast and intelligent in ways incomprehensible? What if civilizations had risen beneath that ocean before humanity even learned to walk upright? What if signals had already been echoing beneath the crust, unheard by human ears, waiting to be unlocked? And with those thoughts came an unease, a trembling in the soul, because if such beings existed, would they welcome humanity? Or would they see us as invaders cracking open their frozen ceiling? And in that trembling, one thing became clear. Discovery could no longer be separated from danger, for to find life was to risk confronting the unknown. And to confront the unknown was to step into a shadow deeper than the universe had ever shown us. And so the scientists pressed on, not because they had answers, but because the questions would not let them sleep, because once the possibility was born, it demanded pursuit, like a ghost calling from the darkness. And in the stillness of that moment, no one could shake the feeling that Europa was alive. Not just with oceans, but with secrets so ancient, so patient, and so immense that humanity was but a child knocking on the door of eternity.